Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the Claverings by Anthony Trollope. We are up to chapter 7, in which Julia Brabazon, who is now the Countess of Ongar, she's a wealthy widow, has returned to London. Against the inclinations, she doesn't know how strong those inclinations are, but against the inclinations of the head of her family, Hugh Clavering. She's returned to London. She's intent on facing the scandals that surround her name, and also facing what we learned from her, a challenge to her marriage settlement. The settlement is that if she outlives her husband, which she did rather easily, she gets Ongar Park, his country estate, for use for her life, plus a large amount of money to upkeep it, a huge amount of money. She becomes a wealthy widow. And the family, the Corton family of which Lord Ongar was a part, don't like that settlement, I guess. We don't know any of the details yet. We'll learn that, but she wants to face those in England rather than in Italy where her husband died. So she comes back to London right at the time when Harry Clavering is apprenticing in London and will be far away from his beloved Florence. Could that mean trouble? Let's see. This is the next chapter. This is called Some Scenes in the Life of a Countess. About the middle of January, Harry Clavering went up to London and settled himself to work at Mr. Bailey's office. He's continuing his apprenticeship to be a land surveyor. Mr. Bailey's office consisted of 4 or 5 large chambers overlooking the river from the bottom of Adam Street in the Adelphi. And here Harry found a table for himself in the same apartment with 3 other pupils. It was a fine old room, lofty, with large windows, ornamented on the ceiling with an Italian scroll work, and a flying goddess in the center. In days gone by, the house had been the habitation of some great rich man, who had there enjoyed the sweet breezes from the river before London had become the London of the present days, when no embankment had been needed for the Thames. And the houses in those days, oh my God. The Thames was a clear river in the very early days before industrial pollution. It was a clear river. And it was big and it was broad and it was surrounded on all sides by wilderness. And you had a park. You had a garden near the kitchen back door, and then you had a park gently sloping all the way down to your river landing, where it was nothing like that now. Nothing could be nicer than his room, or more pleasant than the table and seat which he had to occupy near a window, but there was something in the tone of the other men towards him which did not quite satisfy him. Harry's a little bit difficult to satisfy. They probably did not know that he was a fellow of a college, and treated him as they might have done had he come to them direct from King's College in the Strand, or from the London University. Down at Stratton, a certain amount of honor had been paid to him. They had known there who he was, and had felt some deference for him. They had not slapped him on the back, or poked him in the ribs, or even called him old fellow before some length of acquaintance justified such appellations. But up at Mr. Bailey's, in the Adelphi, one young man, who was certainly his junior in age, and who did not seem as yet to have attained any high position in the science of engineering, manifestly thought that he was acting in a friendly and becoming way by declaring the stranger to be a lad of wax on the second day of his appearance. Harry Clavering was not disinclined to believe that he was a lad of wax, or a brick, or a trump, no small beer, but he desired that such complimentary and endearing appellations should be used him only by those who had known him long enough to be aware that he deserved them. He was not willing to turn down the compliment. Mr. Joseph Wallaker certainly was not yet among that number. There was a man at Mr. Bailey's who was entitled to greet him with endearing terms, and to be so greeted himself, although Harry had never seen him, till he attended him for the first time at the Adelphi. This was Theodore Burton, his future brother-in-law, who was now the leading man in the London house. The leading man as regarded business, though he was not yet a partner. All of the apprentices of Mr. Burton have married his daughters and settled into the trade. It was understood that this Mr. Burton was to come in when his father went out, and in the meantime he received a salary of £1,000 a year as a managing clerk. A very hard-working, steady, intelligent man was Mr. Theodore Burton, with a bald head, a high forehead, and that look of constant work about him which such men obtain. Harry Clavering could not bring himself to take a liking to him, because he wore cotton gloves and had an odious habit of dusting his shoes with his pocket handkerchief. Like I said, Harry's a little fussy. Twice Harry had seen him do this on the first day of their acquaintance, and he regretted it exceedingly. It's like that scene in The Rise of Silas Lapham by William Dean Howells, where a man looks out his old Boston house, sees a man across the street in shirt sleeves, and immediately moves his family. There goes the neighborhood. The cotton gloves were too offensive, as were also the thick shoes which had been dusted. But the dusting was the great sin. And there was something which did not quite please Harry in Mr. Theodore Burton's manner, though the gentleman had manifestly intended to be very kind to him. When Burton had been speaking to him for a minute or two, it flashed across Harry's mind that he had not bound himself to marry the whole Burton family, and that perhaps he must take some means to let the fact be known. So in other words, he's going to marry Florence. That doesn't mean he has to love everybody in the family. Theodore, as he had so often heard the younger Mr. Burton called by loving lips, certainly seemed to claim him as his own, called him Harry, and upbraided him with friendly warmth for not having come direct to his, that is, Mr. Burton's house in Onslow Crescent. "Pray, feel yourself at home there," said Mr. Burton. "I hope you'll like my wife. You needn't be afraid of being made to be idle if you spend your evenings there, for we are all reading people. Will you come and dine today?" Florence had told him that she was her brother Theodore's favorite sister, and that Theodore, as a husband and a brother and a man, was perfect. But Theodore had dusted his boots with his handkerchief, and Harry Clavering would not dine with him on that day. And then it was painfully manifest to him that every one in the office knew his destiny with reference to old Burton's daughter. He had been one of the Stratton men, and no more than any of the others he had gone unscathed through the Stratton fire. He had been made to do the regular thing, as Granger, Scarness, and others had done it. Stratton would be safer ground now, as Clavering had taken the last Burton daughter. All these men who apprenticed with Mr. Burton have all married daughters of his. My baby. That was the feeling on the matter which seemed to belong to others. It was not that Harry thought in this way of his own Florence. He knew well enough what a lucky fellow he was to have won such a girl. Oh, God, here we go. Oh, God, there we go. All right, where was we? There. He was well aware how widely his Florence differed from, for instance, Carrie Scarness. He denied to himself indignantly that he had any notion of repenting what he had done. Where's the thought of repenting coming from, Harry? Why does that even cross your mind? But he did wish that those private matters might have remained private, and that all the men at Belby's had not known of his engagement. When Wallaker, on the fourth day of their acquaintance, asked him if it was all right at Stratton, he made up his mind that he hated Wallaker, and that he would hate Wallaker to the last day of his life. He had declined the first invitation given to him by Theodore Burton, but he could not altogether avoid his future brother-in-law, and had agreed to dine with him on this day. On that same afternoon, Harry, when he left Mr. Belby's office, went direct to Bolton Street, where he might call on Lady Ongar. A little bit of a Victorian melodrama going on here. We are digging. We are fussing. We are settling. A little more digging. Not going to do anything. What you doing? Huh? What are you doing? A little more digging. A little more fussing. Some circling. Looks like we might be settling down, so I can get back to reading. Let's see here. Okay, let me repeat that sentence, that last line, because it's going to be important, and we're going to have to talk about it. On that same afternoon, Harry, when he left Mr. Belby's office, went direct to Bolton Street that he might call on Lady Ongar. Lady Ongar is Julia Brabazon. Widowed Julia Brabazon. And Harry, who is affianced to Florence Burton, is going to meet her. What do we think of this? Harry has already seen that she flusters him. We've heard that word twice. This is surely a bad idea, right? On both their parts. But surely, since he's the one who can walk around and move around, he's not in widow's weeds, surely he should say no now, at this point. Except I'm glad he didn't, because then there wouldn't be a novel. As he went thither, he bethought himself that these Wallachers and the like had to have such events in life, had had no such events in life had befallen him. Remember, he likes to think of himself as special. They laughed at him about Florence Burton, little guessing that it had been his lot to love and to be loved by such a one as Julia Brabazon had been, such a one as Lady Ongar now was. But things had gone well with him. Julia Brabazon could have made no man happy, but Florence Burton would be the sweetest, dearest, truest little wife that ever man took to his home. He was thinking of this, and determined to think of it more and more daily as he knocked on Lady Ongar's door. Not exactly the right place to think about it. Yes, her ladyship was at home, said the servant when he had seen that he had seen on the railway platform, and in a few moments' time he found himself in the drawing room which he had criticized so carefully when he was taking it for the present occupant. Sorry, we're still settling. We're still settling down. We're still turning around and trying different positions. This reading would go a lot smoother if I had a 200-pound Bernese Mountain Dog, but I don't. We're still fussing. Still. Oh. Okay. What are you doing, baby? Oh no, you don't want to be there at all. You want to go back up on your pouch? Want to go back up there? No? Hello, little one. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I'm trying to read Trollope. You don't care. You don't know how to read. Do you want to go back up on your window seat? Or do you want to curl up next to me? Or do you want to go over on the chair? You have so many options. Which one? Oh, so poop. Well, I'll keep you updated. Let's see here. Sorry. He was left in the room for 5 or 6 minutes and was able to take a full mental inventory of its contents. It was very different in its present aspect from the room which he had seen not yet a month since. She had told him that the apartments had been all that she desired, but since then everything had been altered, at least in appearance. A new piano had been brought in, and the chintz on the furniture was surely new, and the room was crowded with small feminine belongings, indicative of wealth and luxury. There were ornaments about, and pretty toys, and 1,000 knickknacks which none but the rich can possess, and which none can possess even among the rich unless they give taste as well as money to their acquisition. Then he heard a light step, and the door opened, and Lady Ongar was there. He expected to see the same figure he had seen on the railway platform, the same gloomy drapery, the same quiet, almost death-like demeanor, nay, almost the same veil over her features. But the Lady Ongar whom he saw now was as unlike that Lady Ongar as she was unlike the Julia Brabazon whom he had known in the old days at Clavering Park. She was dressed, no doubt, in black, nay, no doubt, but she was dressed in weeds. But in spite of the black and in spite of the weeds, there was nothing about her of the weariness or of the solemnity of woe. He was hard. Sorry, the drama is still going on. We're still trying to find a right spot to spend the next 4 hours. He hardly saw that her dress was made of crepe, and that the long white pendants were hanging down from the cap which sat so prettily upon her head. At the time that this novel was written, there were very strict dress codes for being a widow, and it changed by grades as time went on. But it was her face in which he gazed. Well, yeah, Harry, and maybe you shouldn't. At first he thought that she could hardly be the same woman. She was to his eyes so much older than she had been. And yet, as he looked at her, he found that she was as handsome as ever, more handsome than she had ever been. There was such a dignity about her face and figure which became her well, and which she carried as though she knew herself to be in the very truth a countess. It was a face which bore well such signs of age as those which had come upon it. She seemed to be a woman fitter for womanhood than for girlhood. Her eyes were brighter than of yore, and as Harry thought, larger, and her high forehead and noble stamp of countenance seemed fitted for the dress and headgear which she wore. "I have been expecting you," she said, stepping up to him. "Hermione wrote me word that you would come up on Monday. Why did you not come sooner?" There was a smile on her face as she spoke, and a confidence in her tone which almost confounded him. "I've had so many things to do," he said lamely. "About your new profession. Yes, I can understand that. And so are you settled in London now? Where are you living? That is, if you are settled yet." In answer to this, Harry told her that he had taken lodgings in Bloomsbury Square, blushing somewhat as he named so unfashionable a locality. Old Mrs. Burton had recommended to him the house in which he was located, but he did not find it necessary to explain that fact to Lady Ongar. Why, I wonder? Why don't you feel it necessary to explain to her how you came upon this unfashionable address? Because it was suggested to you by the mother of your fiancé? Is that why you're not bringing it up? Oh, I have to thank you for what you did for me, continued she. You ran away from me in such a hurry on that night that I was unable to speak to you. But to tell the truth, Harry, I was in no mood then to speak to anyone. Of course, you thought that I treated you ill. Lady Ongar, you are treating him ill by referring to him as Harry. Oh, no, said he. Of course you did. If I thought you did not, I should be angry with you now. But it had been to save my life that I could not have helped it. Why did not Sir Hugh Clavering come to meet me? Why did not my sister's husband come to meet me? To this question Harry could make no answer. He was still standing with his hat in his hand, and now turned his face away from her and shook his head. Sit down, Harry, she said, and let me talk to you like a friend, unless you are in a hurry to go away. Oh, no, he said, seating himself. Or unless you, too, are afraid of me. Afraid of you, Lady Ongar? Yes, afraid. But I don't mean you. I don't believe that you are a coward enough to desert a woman who you once were friends with because misfortune has overtaken her and calumny has been at work with her name. Because remember, it's not just that she's widowed. It's that rumors have come from Florence that she was stepping out on her ill and dying husband with an unnamed count. I hope not, said he. No, Harry, I do not think it of you. But if Sir Hugh be not a coward, why did he not come to meet me? Why has he left me to stand alone, now that he could be of service to me? I knew that money was his god, but I have never asked him for a shilling, and should not have done so now. Oh, Harry, how wicked you were about that cheque. Do you remember? He sent her a cheque in the olden days to clear her debt. Yes, I remember. So shall I, always, always. If I had taken that money, how often should I have heard about it since? Heard of it? He asked. Do you mean from me? Yes, how often from you? This is an insult. It's a slap. Harry would never have mentioned it again, and she knows that. She might not know much about him, but she knows that. Would you have dunned me and told me of it once a week? Upon my word, Harry, I was told of it more nearly every day. Is it not wonderful that men should be so mean? What is she talking about? Harry has never mentioned it to her. Someone else has. It was clear to him now that she was talking of her husband, who was dead, and on that subject, at that moment, how openly she would soon speak of him. On that subject, he felt himself at present unable to speak a word. He little dreamed at that moment how openly she would soon speak to him of Lord Ongar and Lord Ongar's faults. Oh, how I have wished that I had taken your money. But never mind about that now, Harry. Wretched as such taunts were, they soon became a small thing. But it was cowardly in your cousin Hugh, has it not? If I had not lived with him as one of his family, it would not have mattered. People would not have expected it. It was as though my own brother had cast me forth. Because you did live in his house. And he very, as public as these things get, to anyone who's watching, to anyone who's paying attention, they know that she came home, his wife's sister came home alone to England, and he didn't even go to meet her, and is not seeing her, and will not allow her at the house. Lady Clavering has been with you, has she not? Once, for half an hour. Okay, so we know that Hermione Clavering did, in fact, finally get up to London to see her sister. She came up for one day, and came here by herself, cowering as though she were afraid of me. Poor Hermy. She has not a good time of it either. You lords of creation lead your slaves sad lives when it pleases you to change your billing and cooing from matter-of-fact masterdom and rule. I don't blame Hermy. I suppose she did all she could, and I did not utter a word of reproach to her, nor should I him. Indeed, if he came now, the servant would deny him to me. He has insulted me, and I shall remember the insult. And she has the means to remember the insult. She's 50 times wealthier than Hugh Clavering. Harry Clavering did not clearly understand what it was that Lady Ongar had desired of her brother-in-law, what aid she had required. Oh, come now. She wanted him to meet her at the station. She doesn't need any aid from him. She can afford a hotel better than he can. She wants him to meet her at the station so that the world will see that he does not believe these rumors about her. And the fact that he didn't encourages the rumors. Nor did he know whether it would be fitting for him to offer to act in Hugh's place. Anything that he could do, he felt that at that moment willing to do, even though the necessary service should demand some sacrifice greater than prudence could approve. If I had thought that anything was wanted, I should have come to you sooner, said he. Everything is wanted, Harry, everything is wanted, except that cheque for £600 which you sent me so treacherously. Did you ever think what might have happened if a certain person had heard of that? All the world would have declared that you had done it for your own private purposes. All the world except one. All right, if you're reading this chapter along with me, and you're not, plenty of you are letting me read this book too. You're not reading ahead. If you're reading this along with me now, you might start to sense, well, it'll be controversial, and we'll talk about it in the course of the book, but I wouldn't blame some of you if you were starting to dislike Julia. All this business about the check, it's over and done, and you're... Anyway, let's move on. I don't want to prejudice the jury. Harry, as he heard this, felt that he was blushing. Did Lady Ongar know of his engagement to Florence Burton? Lady Clavering knew it, and might probably have told the tidings, but then again she might not have told them. Harry at this moment wished that he knew how it was. All that Lady Ongar said to him would come with so different a meaning according as she did or did not know that fact. Who's the one that she was referring to? Is it herself? Or is it Florence Burton? But he had no mind to tell her of the fact himself. Just old friends meeting. Wouldn't you do that? He had declared to himself that he had hoped she knew it, and as it would serve to make them both more comfortable together, but he did not think that it would do for him to bring forward the subject neck and heels, as it were. The proper thing would be that she should congratulate him, but this she did not do. I certainly mean no ill, said he, and I meant no ill, he said, in answer to the last words she had spoken. If you're just old friends meeting, the first thing you would say is, well, did you know I'm engaged? Why are you not saying it? Since she's not congratulating you, it seems safe to know she doesn't know it. You have never meant ill to me, Harry, though you know you have all abused me dreadfully before now. I dare say you forget the hard names you have called me. You men do forget such things. The names were accurate. I remember calling you one name, said Harry. Do not repeat it now, if you please. If I deserved it, it would shame me, and if I did not, it would shame you. No, I will not repeat it. Does it not seem odd, Harry, that you and I should be sitting talking together in this way? She was leaning now towards him across the table, one hand raised to her forehead, while her eyes were fixed intently upon his. The attitude, was one which he felt to be extreme intimacy. She would not have sat in that way, pressing back her hair from her brow with all the appearance of widowhood banished from her face, in the presence of any but a dear and close friend. He did not think of this, but he felt that it was almost by instinct. He felt that it was so, almost by instinct. I have such a tale to tell you, she said. Such a tale. Why should she tell it to him? Of course he asked himself this question. Then he remembered that she had no brother. Remembered also that her brother-in-law had deserted her, and he declared to himself that, if necessary, he would be her brother. I fear that you have not been happy, said he, since I saw you last. Happy, she replied. I have lived such a life as I did not think any man or woman could be made to live on this side of the grave. I will be honest with you, Harry. Nothing but the conviction that it could not be for long has saved me from destroying myself. I knew that he must die. Oh, Lady Ongar. Yes, indeed. That is the name he gave me, and because I consented to take it from him, he treated me, oh heavens, how am I to find the words for what he did? This is Lord Ongar we're talking about here. And the way in which he treated me. A woman could not tell it to a man. Harry, I have no friend that I trust but you, but to you I cannot tell it. When I found that he had been wrong in marrying me, and he did not want the thing which he had thought would suit him, that I was a drag upon him rather than a comfort, what was his mode, do you think, of ridding himself of the burden? Clavering sat silent, looking at her. Both her hands were now up to her forehead, and her large eyes were gazing at him till he found himself unable to withdraw his own for a moment from her face. He strove to get another man to take me off his hands, and when he found that he was failing, he charged me with the guilt which he himself had contrived for me. Lady Ongar! Yes, you may well stare at me. You may speak hoarsely and look at me like that. It may be that even you will not believe me, but by the God in whom we both believe, I tell you nothing but the truth. He attempted that, and he failed. And then he cursed me. He accused me of the crime which he could not bring me to commit. So there was another man. The rumors aren't totally false, but they were started by Lord Ongar. He wanted her to do this. And what then? Asked Harry. Yes, what then? Harry, I had a thing to do and a life to live, and that would have tried the bravest, but I went through it. I stuck to him to the last. He told me before he was dying, before that last frightful illness, that I was staying with him for his money. For your money, my lord, your money, I said, and for my own name. And it was so. Would it have been wise in me, after all that I had gone through, to have given up that for which I had sold myself? I had been very poor, and had been so placed that poverty, even such poverty as mine, was a curse to me. You know what I gave up because I feared that curse. She gave up Harry. Was I to be foiled at last because such a creature as that wanted to shirk out of his bargain? I knew there were some who would say that I had been false. Hugh Clavering says so now, I suppose. But they never should say that I had left him to die alone in a foreign land. Did he ask you to leave him? No. But he called me that name which no woman should hear and stay. No woman should do so unless she had a purpose, such as mine. He wanted to back the price that he had paid me, and I was determined to do nothing that should assist him in his meanness. And then, Harry, his last illness. Oh, Harry, you would pity me if you could know all. Lord Ongar's... Okay, well, wait, let's just go on. This is great stuff. It was his own intemperance. Intemperance. It was brandy. Sheer brandy. He brought himself to such a state that nothing but brandy would keep him alive, and in which brandy was sure to kill him, and it did kill him. Did you ever hear of the horrors of drink? Yes, I have heard of such a state. I hope you may never live to see it. It was a sight that would stick by you forever. But I saw it, and I tended him through the whole, as though I had been his servant. I remained with him when that man who opened the door for you now could no longer endure the room. I was with him when the strong woman from the hospital, though she could not understand his words, almost fainted at what she saw and heard. He was punished, Harry. I need wish no further vengeance on him, even for all his cruelty, his injustice, his unmanly treachery. Is it not fearful to think that any man should have the power of bringing himself to such an end as that? And yet, Lord Ongar's wretched end through sheer excessive drinking is not the only such end we see in Trollope. There's half a dozen people that go that way. Harry was thinking rather how fearful it was that a man should have it in his power to drag any woman through such a Gehenna as that which this lord had created. He felt that had Julia Brabazon been his, as she had once promised him, he would never have allowed himself to speak a harsh word to her, to have looked at her except with loving eyes. But she had chosen to join herself to a man who had treated her with a cruelty exceeding that all that his imagination could conceive. It is a mercy that he has gone, he said at last. It is a mercy for both. Perhaps you can understand now something of my married life. Yeah, but what about the ending of it? You never left his side. Because you didn't want anyone to say that you were false. Because you didn't want anyone to say that you'd left him alone to die in a foreign land. But also for his money. And through it all, I had but one friend, if I may call him a friend, who had come to terms with my husband, and who was to have been his agent in destroying me. But then this man understood from me that I was not what he had been taught to think of me, which my husband had told him I was, and he relented. So she actually makes common cause with the man her husband drafted to seduce her and start these rumors. May I ask what was that man's name? His name is Pateroff. He is a Pole, but he speaks English like an Englishman. In my presence he told Lord Ongar that he was false and brutal. Lord Ongar laughed, with that little low, sneering laughter which was his nearest approach to merriment, and told Count Pateroff that was, of course, his game before me. Then, Harry, I will tell you nothing more of it. You will understand enough to know that I have suffered, and if you can believe that I have not sinned. Oh, Lady Ongar. Well, I will not doubt you again, but as far as I can learn, you are nearly alone in your belief. What Henry thinks, I cannot tell. What Hermy thinks, I cannot tell. But she will soon come to think as Hugh may bid her. And I shall not blame her. What else can she do, poor creature? I am sure she believes no ill of you. I have one advantage, Harry, one advantage over her and some others. I am free. The chains have hurt me sorely during my slavery, but I am free, and the price of my servitude remains. He had written home. Would you believe that? While I was living with him, he had written home to say that evidence should be collected for getting rid of me. And yet he would sometimes be civil, hoping to cheat me into inadvertencies. He would ask that man to dine, and then all of a sudden would be absent. During this, he was ordering that evidence should be collected. Evidence, indeed. The same servants have lived with me through it all. If I could now bring forward evidence, I could make it all clear as day. But there need be no care. There needs no care for a woman's honor, though a man may have guard his by collecting evidence. But what he did cannot injure you. Yes, Harry, it has injured me. It has all but destroyed me. Have not reports reached even you? Speak out like a man and say whether or not it was so. I have heard something. Yes, you have heard something. And if you heard something of your sister, where would you be? All the world would be a chaos to you till you had pulled out someone's tongue by the roots. Not injured me. For 2 years your cousin Hugh's house was my home. I met Lord Ongar in his house. I married him from his house. He was my brother-in-law, and it so happens that of all men he was the nearest to me. He stands well before the world, and at that time could have done me a real service. How is it that he did not welcome me home, that I am not now in his house with my sister, that he did not meet me so that the world might know that I was received back among my own people? Why is it, Harry, that I am telling you this, to you who are nothing to me, my sister's husband's cousin, a young man from your position not fit to be my confidant? Why am I telling this to you, Harry? Because we are old friends, said he, wondering again at this moment whether she knew of his engagement to Florence Burton. Yes, we are old friends, and we have always liked each other, but you must know, as the world judges, I am wrong to tell all this to you. Julia, you are correct. You are wrong to do this, especially if you have an ulterior motive, and Harry is just as wrong to sit there and listen. You're not in a position to be sharing confidences with each other. He's an affianced man, alone in the city, and you are a freshly widowed young woman with scandal attached to your name. This is wrong on both sides. Or do you agree? Tell me what you think of this. I should be wrong, only that the world has cast me out, so that I am no longer bound to regard it. I am Lady Ongar, and I have my share of that man's money. They have given me up Ongar Park, having satisfied themselves that it might be mine by right, and must be mine by law. But he has robbed me of every friend I had in the world, and you tell me he has not injured me. Well, not every friend. No, Harry, I will not forget you, though I spoke so slightingly of you just now. But your vanity need not be hurt. It is only the world, Mrs. Grundy, you know, that would deny me such friendship as yours, not my own taste or choice. Mrs. Grundy always denies us exactly those things which we ourselves like best. You are clever enough to understand that. And by Mrs. Grundy, she means here, John and Joan Q. Public. He smiled and looked foolish, and declared that he only offered his assistance because perhaps it might be convenient at the present moment. What could he do for her? How could he show his friendship for her now at once? You have done it, Harry, in listening to me and giving me your sympathy. It is seldom that we want any great thing from our friends. I want nothing of the kind. No one can hurt me much further now. My money and my rank are safe, and perhaps by degrees acquaintances, if not friends, will form themselves round me again. At present, of course, I see no one. But because I see no one, I want someone to whom I could speak. Poor Hermie is worse than no one. Goodbye, Harry. You look surprised and bewildered now, but you will soon get over that. Don't be long before I see you again. Then, feeling he was bidden to go, he wished her goodbye and went. That is our chapter. It's all conversation, and it has, in this old edition, it has 2 illustrations. The big illustration shows us clearly that Robin Song Reeds is going to play Harry Clavering in the booktube adaptation of this story. The character that I will play has not appeared yet. For those who think I might be Sir Hugh, now kindly zip it. The character I am to play has not appeared yet, and the character that everyone is going to want to play has not appeared yet. But there's also another picture. There's a picture that starts the chapter. And I wonder if you'll notice something in this picture that was not mentioned at all in the chapter. I wonder if you'll notice a little detail in this picture. Maybe you could spot it. There's a tiny little detail in this picture that was not mentioned in the chapter. I won't count as a spoiler since it's in the picture, but Lady Ongar has come home with the heir. Anyway, that is our next chapter. and we are going to move on. We have several adult nuances, several implications here. But my stance in this chapter, which will run throughout the book, and which I want your opinion on, is obviously by Victorian standards, by normal Victorian standards, not in novels, these two should not be spending intimate time together. It's bad for both of them. Now, maybe, of course, Trollope wants to tell a story, so he's going to bend that a little. But how much is he bending it? Surely we can agree that Harry is doing something wrong by not making absolutely sure that Lady Ongar knows he's engaged. Surely we can agree on that. He can't possibly say, and you can't possibly say, it's none of her business. But anyway, maybe you can. Anyway, I'll wrap this up, and we will go on to the next chapter next time. Thank you, BookTube.